Okay.
All right, let's do this.
3, 2, 1. Troy,
How are we doing?
we're here. End of the semester. End of this the study and this season, I guess you would call it, of Eagle's Nest podcast.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm so glad that I was able to meet you from my service learning project, and I did not expect this to happen, like for any of this to transpire. I just thought I was going to be doing a service learning project, get my service learning hours, and then be on my way. I still don't even have the service learning hours approved from service learning from that project, but I say, I think I got something better for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you took the reins on it and just took it and ran with it. It's really exciting, and it's important for veterans to be able to share their story. And I think you've probably seen it where people like talking about what they've been through.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah. I've definitely, after some of the interviews I conducted with some of the veterans, we'll be talking, and they'll be like, I really appreciate, what you're doing, and they'll say stuff like, this is something that I think is really good because veterans want to talk. Veterans want to talk about, the stuff that they went through and stuff like that. While we get started, I already had an interview with you before. I already know some of this stuff, but, let's go ahead and get a little introduction on your service.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Troy Bolivar. I'm the Director of Military and Veteran Success here. I'm a Navy vet. I served 5 years. I was in Naval Hospital Guam delivering babies for 2.5 years, and then I went to Camp Pendleton and I was babysitting Marines for another 2 years. So it was a good experience.
Yeah. So I don't remember much about you telling me about delivering babies and stuff like that. So how was that?
So when I first got to the hospital and they told me, "Oh, you're going to go work on labor and delivery," I was like, "Oh man, that's not what I want to do."
Yeah.
But then,
I just remember you telling me that you were cleaning up a lot of blood on the floors and stuff.
Yeah, blood, fluids, all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it was cool because I like most of my friends, they were coming home after their shift and they're working in the ER, ICU. They're dealing with death, and it's sad. It's depressing. And I was in a position where I was helping bring life into the world where all the families I was working with were happy. Yeah. So I realized it was a blessing over time. It was really cool. And my job, so the doctor would deliver the baby, get the baby out, and then the doctor would essentially just hand the baby to me. And my job was to clean the baby off, get it taken care of.
Oh, wow.
Teach the mom how to breastfeed, like all sorts of stuff that I never thought I would do. But
yeah, wow. How is the environment? So you were saying a lot of the people there were surrounded by death and having to work with stuff like that. So how were the doctors and everybody else? What was that kind of like? Working with them. Was it like were they kind of just like almost macabre? Not like macabre, but
like used to it.
Yeah, used to it, or
I would say so. Yeah, especially for like the doctors and the nurses that we were working with, they could definitely handle it. But for some of the new people, it was challenging for sure.
Definitely.
But one thing, when we were in Guam, everybody that worked at the hospital lived in their own separate housing. So in this one area on the island, we had like all the hospital staff that lived and worked. And so we would always get together. We'd do potlucks and celebrate Thanksgiving together, celebrate Christmas together. Like nobody had family there. And it's a 16-hour, $2,000 flight back to the States. So
it was kind of similar to it was almost similar to like housing for like military bases and stuff like that.
Yep.
Oh, very interesting.
Yep. We had our own specific housing. It was great. I just got in, and most people when they first get in the military, they're living in the barracks.
Yeah.
I had a house. I mean, I had a roommate, but we had an extra bedroom. We had a kitchen. We had a carport. Like
that sounds nice to me.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Laundry room.
What was Guam like?
Hot.
I've never been there before.
Hot, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun I was younger at the time, so going out, doing things. The whole island's a beach, so you can literally go to I could walk 5 minutes and get to the beach from my house.
Oh, wow. Where is Guam?
I think it's like 1,000 miles east of the Philippines, southeast.
Okay.
So like the Philippines is right here, and then there's a bunch of islands here, and then Australia is over here.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so kind
Very
of
nice.
right in the middle of Australia and the Philippines.
Yeah. So how did you go from delivering babies to
Being here.
yeah?
Well, so after I was in Guam, I went to Camp Pendleton, and
Right.
I was essentially the first responder for 60 Marines that I was working with. I loved it. It was great, but I loved the relationships that I was building with the Marines
Of
I
course.
worked with,
Yeah.
because those are my guys, or we're brothers, you know.
Yeah.
And so getting out, I knew that I didn't want to do the medical field anymore.
Yeah.
And funny story, and I don't know if we should include this, but I'm going to share it anyway.
Go ahead.
So when I went to Australia for 6 months, and when we deployed there, I mean, they called it a deployment. It's not a real deployment. We were going there for training. And,
Okay.
You know, but when we went, I learned that they don't sell dip or tobacco, and dip, they don't sell it all, and cigarettes were $25 a pack.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I saw an opportunity there, and I started. I had my wife sending me flat rate boxes
Oh my God.
full of Pringles cans, full of dip, and then there was like cracker boxes that were full of packs of cigarettes.
Oh my God.
And
Making
it's-
money.
As soon as I would get that box, I would pick it up from the CO's office. So as soon as I would get it, be like, all right, open it up. And from their office, I'd start selling the dip and the
God.
cigarettes. And then on my walk back to my room, I would sell pretty much the entire package that I just got.
Before
in
you
the mail.
even got to.
Before I even got to my
Oh
room.
my God.
I got back to
How much were you selling them for?
dip was 15 and I think 20 for cigarettes.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good profit.
Why is it so expensive over there?
I mean, they must care about health or something.
I guess. Yeah.
But so I from that experience, I was like, oh, it's fun finding opportunities and making it happen. And,
Yeah.
You know, so getting out, initially I thought I wanted to be an engineer because I like building things.
Yeah.
And then I learned about our entrepreneurship program here at the university, and I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. So
yeah.
I actually majored in that. And then after I graduated, I ran our Veterans Florida Entrepreneurship Program that we have here on campus. And then like a year and a half ago, a position opened up and I applied for it, and it was to create veteran services here at the university. So now I have the opportunity to actually implement the things that I learned while going to school to learn how to be an entrepreneur, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm implementing the things that I learned in school.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm able to, test ideas and, just figure out how it works, how to start something.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's been amazing to see, how short of a time I've been, involved in, the organization, and just kind of seeing how everything is, how it operates, and seeing how you operate it, and it's been very interesting. And it's one thing that I've been enjoying for these interviews was hearing how these veterans met you and got in contact with you. Brian, he was the last person I interviewed, and it was really funny. A lot of his stories were kind of almost chance encounters, almost, and so he was telling me like you were one of the first people that he met when he got down here, and you kind of just hooked him right up. So yeah, it's really amazing to see, what people can do, just with knowledge that they learned, just how far someone can go with just anything,
Yeah, and so when I was getting out of the military and when I was going to school, I remember like it changed. My life was completely different.
Yeah.
And I was uncomfortable just in life, being a civilian in general. I was uncomfortable. I was nervous, I did an internship, and I remember I'm like, what's going on with my confidence right now? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And then when I started working with the entrepreneurship program, I was empowered.
Yeah.
I was empowered to do something, and I had a purpose. And I realized, and that purpose and that feeling and, going and doing my best to help people, like, it made me feel good, for one, and it gave me confidence. So with the veterans that I'm interacting with, like, I remember how I felt. So I want to put things in place where they can gain that confidence. They might already have it, but if they don't, we're going to empower you. We're going to show you that you can do this on the civilian side.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, when you first didn't have that confidence, it was because you didn't have that purpose?
I think so. I think it was that, and I was unsure. Like, when I was looking at, I think I was a junior or something, so I was about a year out from graduating. I was looking at jobs, and I was like, I don't even know what these jobs mean. Like, what's a business development coordinator, or what is that? So I didn't learn those things in school but getting into a position where I was able to actually learn, and then there was people there to support me while I was learning and not make me feel like an idiot. It was helpful, and it's why I'm here, or it's why I'm where I'm at today.
Definitely.
It's because of that initial step.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also, I think, a great thing that you're doing, that's kind of like the driving force of, what I see in your organization is you're able to connect with veterans because you understand, you have that level of understanding of how they feel. I was talking with Ed about this in our second interview. We were diving into some suicides that happened while he was deployed, and he was talking about how it was really difficult to kind of talk to his other shipmates, and also just kind of process that trauma. And we got into a conversation of, it's hard to help somebody who has dealt with something traumatic as a death or something like that, when you haven't experienced it yourself. And so I feel like that's the same. That same thing can be compared to the military. Like, veterans can only understand veterans, like, truly.
Yeah.
In some regard, like for me, I'm not a veteran, but I'm a dependent. I've seen that culture. I've seen that perspective. So in some degree, I can understand, the stuff that you guys went through, because my father went through it firsthand. Yeah. And so I think, being able to understand people in a true level, like, people say, like, oh, you understand me, but you don't really understand me, so I think that true understanding of one another really helps drive that confidence that you were saying.
Yeah, and I mean, you said you have to be another veteran to fully understand vets. I think that's huge, but I also think that what you're doing shows that you want to understand veterans. Exactly. And so you earn their trust by initiating the conversation and pulling them out of their comfort zone, being welcoming, and asking questions. Yeah. And so I think, like, there's a ton of different ways where civilians can understand veterans as well. Definitely. And I think that this gives you that opportunity.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, you mentioned your father being a veteran.
Yeah.
So throughout this semester, you've been interviewing everybody else. Nobody's gotten a chance to to really know who you are. So I wanted to do this podcast today, so we could talk about you a little bit and what your background is.
All right.
So
this will be interesting.
So, what branch was your dad in?
He was in the Army. He was in the Army for about 20 years. He served. I don't remember his getting in date, but he got out early 2010s. He was a Chief Warrant Officer, CW4. He went into the Army, got into the Rangers, He was an infantryman in the Rangers, and then went to flight school. Flew helicopters, OH-58s, and then started teaching people how to fly helicopters, and then he got into a helicopter crash, and then from there he retired.
Wow. I bet that was tough, hearing about it.
Yeah, when I was first introduced, like when he first told me about it, I didn't fully understand and process it. And I guess I didn't hear it right. My first inkling of what I thought had happened was I thought he got shot down. But he actually, he was kind of a klutz, but not really. But basically what happened was I've learned about this a lot more now because every year we celebrate, we call it his Alive Day. And so every year we, try and have the whole family come together and kind of just celebrate,
What day is it?
It is July 12th, I believe. So, yeah, please don't put me on the spotlight.
Sorry.
But, so he was following a convoy, doing rounds to make sure, checking ahead, checking behind, see if there's any bad guys or anything like that. And so the road that the convoy was on was right next to, like, a bank of water. And across from that was a bunch of neighborhoods, houses, and stuff like that. And so as he's flying down, it was really strange. There's kind of like two parts to the story. I'm heavily paraphrasing this and summarizing, but basically he was flying out, and maybe 20, 30 miles ahead of him, he sees like an explosion, black smoke, stuff like that. What was happening over there was a high value, I guess, target or asset that was being transported, and the convoy got intercepted. And so he was able to see, people were on their knees. They were about to get executed, and hands behind their heads. And I'm not sure if he did something. He definitely intervened to a point where the bad guys got scared and ran off. And so, but he was like, oh, okay, flies back, and he sees back to the convoy. He sees a group of 5 military-age males looking suspicious on the other side of the bank. And so he goes in for a landing, and as he's going down, his tail rudder hits a tree, hits the tree. Helicopter banks over and rolls down the river, and so the helicopter ends up upside down, and everyone in the helicopter survived, thankfully, but he had to get out of there fast because things were starting to get hot. Missiles started getting discharged and stuff like that, and he grabbed his M4 because I didn't realize this at this point, but I guess they carry rifles in helicopters as well. He was in a recon helicopter, but I guess it's just for if something like that happens. So his boys, they pull over, they pull him out, and he is completely delirious. He is just like fumbling over, has no idea what's going on. And, he just landed in somebody's backyard. So the family comes up and they're like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. They're concerned. They don't know what's going on. But my dad sees those people come up to him. He doesn't know who they are. And so he points his rifle at them, and he takes a look. The rifle is like bent, like almost 90 degrees. And so he's just like, ugh, whatever. And so everyone's trying to take care of him, yada, yada, yada. And so that was kind of like the climax and everything that was happening with that. And but it just, when my dad originally told me this, I was just like, how did this even happen? So he gets carried, gets put into a Humvee, and so with these stretchers that they used, it was 2 wheels. It wasn't 4 wheels. And so my dad, when he was 18, he was like 6'2", 200 pounds. He was a big guy. And so trying to carry this big guy on a 2-wheel stretcher in dirt and sand over to Humvee, they dropped him a couple times. So he had some some brain injuries, something happened from that. And so when they put him in the Humvee, the stretcher was too big to fully fit inside the Humvee. So one of the Humvee doors had to be propped open. And, 4 to 6 inch thick steel doors being propped open. They had the door that was on his head propped open. And so as they were driving to the hospital, taking turns,
door closes.
Wide open, slams on his head. He gets instantly knocked out. So he went in and out of consciousness multiple times before getting to the hospital. And so, I think they dropped him one more time before they finally put him on a bed. And so, he is like completely delirious, has no idea what's going on. And so they get him all drugged up, and he's like, "Woo," but still hurting. And so doctor, so he was like, I think this was probably the more enjoyable part of the story. So the doctor comes in, and he's like, "Hey, you want to see something funny?" And my dad just literally just got out of a crashed helicopter, and he's like, "Sure." So the doctor pulls out a mirror, holds it to my dad's face, probably an inch or two away from his face, and he's like, "Close your lips and blow." So context. So when my dad was flying in his helicopter, he has his flight stick or whatever. Usually it has a grip on it, but he didn't have a grip on his flight stick, and so basically it was just a metal pole with a circle on top. So when he crashed, the pole literally hit in between his chin and his bottom lip. And so when he closed his lips and he blew as hard as he could, it was just spit and blood coming out of that hole. And so, you could see he has like a double chin now. It was really funny. But, so going back to the second part of the story, so when he was in the hospital, he actually got put in the same room in a bed right next to the guy that he saved.
Really?
Yeah. So he was a part of that convoy that got hijacked and taken over, and they were probably seconds from killing him. And my dad scared him off and he thought nothing of it. Yeah. And it's actually really interesting. My dad is I'm studying abroad, and my father's going to be traveling abroad with his fiance, and so we're going to be meeting up at some point. But during his trip, he is actually going to go visit that friend, and they haven't seen each other since that incident. So that's going to be very interesting. But yeah.
So how old were you when all this happened?
Less than 10. I was too young to like process or even understand anything like that, which I think was good, because I feel like, if I was older and kind of realized the severity of the situation, I probably would have been a lot more freaked out. It probably would have been a little bit more traumatic for me. Yeah. But I was in Alabama, playing with my grandma, and my dad is fighting for his life out in Iraq or something like that. So I didn't really have a lot of I didn't talk to my dad a lot when he was deployed. And I was too young to really know what was going on. But, that's why I enjoy hearing his stories a lot more now, because I'm able to, really take appreciation into just the wild stuff that happened to him. And
not you said he was fighting for his freedom, not just that, but he was fighting for his life. He wasn't just fighting for that; he was fighting for our freedom.
Yeah,
that's why many people joined. So it's very honorable.
Yeah.
So from essentially when you were born until when did he get out?
So I was born in Hawaii. So I was born when he was stationed in Hawaii. He was stationed. My brother was born in Louisiana, and then I think he started somewhere. I believe he started somewhere in Alabama, moved to Texas for deployment, and then Louisiana, and then Hawaii. And then, so I believe he was probably in the service 5-10 years before I was born.
Okay.
Probably a little bit more. But yeah, after Hawaii, we moved to Alabama, and that was the last place he was, on duty and stuff. And then once we moved to Florida, he was retired, and yeah, that's been since.
So, when you were going to school and stuff in elementary school, were a lot of other kids? Did their parents serve as well, or?
No, I mean, like, I feel like, being in elementary school, that wasn't really a question to ask. Like, hey, was your family in the military?
Good point. Good point.
Being a fifth grader or something like that. But, I feel like even at that age, I had a lot of pride in my father and what he did. I didn't. It's been so long, I can't remember, a lot. But, I feel like, at that age, that kind of started my, I guess, interest in the military and just seeing, when he would come back from deployment and he would have Call of Duty and we'd play Call of Duty together. And so that was kind of like,
you thought that's what?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, military, cool, shooting stuff, things blowing up, helicopters. Yeah, that's so sick. My dad's so sick. But, when I got older, it was more, I would guess, well, actually, I feel like more of my perspective of it was seeing the trauma, the PTSD, because after he retired, he had a lot of PTSD, and it was really bad. He hit me once, but his voice, if he screamed at the top of his lungs, which he would when I was younger, it felt like a slap in the face. Like it would rip your soul right out of your chest. But yeah, he had really bad anger issues, and so that was what I was kind of experiencing a lot when I was younger. And so I guess because of that, there wasn't a lot that I wanted to kind of approach him about regarding the military. But it was bad for a bit, and he always tells me this story. So like the plastic pizza cutters, right? Like the D-shaped ones. They're pretty strong. Like it takes a lot of effort to break that. At least when I was younger. But so I just remember I was in the kitchen with him and he was making pizza, and I forgot what he was mad about, but he went to 10. And he was raising his voice, got so mad. He got so mad that he threw the pizza cutter onto the ground, and it hit the ground and completely shattered into like dozens of pieces. And when he threw it on the ground, I was just completely silent. I was just like, oh my, like, didn't even know what to say. And I don't remember what exactly I said, but from what he tells me, I kind of looked up at him and I said, is this your PSTD happening again? And he said kind of from that point, he was just like, like,
it's that internal reflection.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man.
He really had that. He really had that internal reflection. And it did get to a point where we sat down and we kind of talked it out, and I was just like, I really don't like you yelling and stuff like that, just trying to figure out the relationship. And so, my early life was trying to figure out my relationship with my father, because it got really rocky in late middle school, high school, but I was able to connect with him a little bit more on the military side. I was getting older, so he could tell me a little bit more stories and stuff like that. And so I would say, middle school, high school was where I was starting to get, really interested in his story and his life.
Wow. So how's your relationship with him now?
It is absolutely phenomenal. It's been the best it's ever been, actually. Starting in high school, it got so weird. It got to the point where I was kind of just being, a rebellious teen, and he was still on the approach. Like when we sat down and discussed, like, hey, I don't like you yelling. Okay, what should we do? He was still kind of on that plan. And I guess one day I told him, I was like, I just need you to step back. Step back, take a couple steps back. Give me some space. And that literally, like, he gave me too much space. Like, it got to the point where, like, I'd walk into the door from school, say hi, and then I'd just be doing my whatever, me for the rest of the day. Like, we would barely talk, barely hang out, and that's when it kind of got really bad. And but once I graduated, once I got out of that house, and I was just on my own. The first year of me being here, it was kind of me just, finally being free and doing my thing. But this year especially, I've been texting him more than I've ever been, and calling him almost once a week. Just actively talking with him and conversating with him, and it's been so much better. Going back home because it's not. He's just always happy that I'm there. It's not having, he
doesn't have to parent as much.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to deal with the stress of parenting.
Exactly.
Like he can.
Like he had that stress in the house when I was home all the time, but now that I wasn't at the house all the time, he kind of dialed it back. And so, it's been really cool.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, but it was stupid stuff. He didn't allow piercings, no tattoos, and no hair dye, and no long hair, nothing. I mean, that was the military discipline.
Funny story. I got kicked out of the house for piercing my ears.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So neither did my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was an instructor at a male youth academy. So they were like military mindset. So
yeah.
He wasn't in the military, but he brought that home.
Yeah, that mindset is annoying, man. Especially when I'm like
when you're just trying to figure out life.
When I'm a junior, senior, and I'm just like chilling. So what was really funny was I got so sick of the no dye rule because I asked him, I was like, what if I dye my hair black? Like, I don't want a crazy color. I just want black hair. Like, that's a natural color. And he was like, no hair dye. I'm like, Dad, what? And his current fiance, she was like, I think it's dumb too, whatever. And so one day I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go dye my hair. So I got some box dye, dyed my hair black, and first time seeing him after doing it, he didn't even notice.
Really?
Didn't even notice. But what was hilarious was his fiance noticed. So after I talked with him or whatever, she pulled me aside and she was like, did you dye your hair? I was like, yeah. She's like,
she's like, I'm going to have to deal with this.
Yeah. She was just like, all right, I'm not going to say anything. He didn't say anything. I'm not going to say anything. And so that went through, dye went out, and I decided to do it again because he didn't notice the first time. And so dyed it again. He didn't notice. I was in the clear, whatever. And it was like 6 months later. We were talking. We were kind of just like going back and forth, just bickering or whatever. And he was like, and your hair. Gave me a look, and I was like, oh, you finally noticed? Like, it was so silly. But, it was just silly things like that that would cause problems. But, now I look back on it, it was just hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny when you can look back on those things. Or, sometimes I'll ask my parents, hey, did you ever realize I was doing this when this was going on in life?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm waiting for the day where I could just sit down at a bar with my dad and just tell him, like, Dad, I just want to be real with you. I did this. I did that. I did this. I did that. But, I'll wait for that day to come.
Well, when I had that conversation with my parents, my dad, he was like, oh, yeah, I did the same thing when I was your age. Like, he was pointing out all these different things that he did. But, well, it's good that you guys have a good relationship now. Like, it's really good to hear. Have you told him about the podcast?
Yeah. This was, this podcast started from my dad. So this podcast first started from a service learning project, and this service learning project started from my dad. So as I got older, nearing the end of high school, just about to get into my first year. Well, I think I already got into my first year. And so I get back home and, we're talking, he's sharing more stories with me. And more, I was just sitting there listening to him and just like, I need to write this down. Like, I need to record this because I feel like his life story is just, it's too interesting to be forgotten, And, you can't get those memories back once if you don't write those down. If, when my dad dies, it's going to be gone. And so there won't be any memory of him except for what I have in my brain. And that's something that I fear personally, especially with like, my grandma. And I don't know a lot about my family. My grandmother, she was adopted. My grandfather was a deadbeat. My mom doesn't talk to her side of the family. So I don't know a lot about my family. And so I feel like that's still a big question for me that needs to be answered, eventually. And I think, doing those, I guess, my first initial thought was doing biographies. So I feel like, having those biographies and, learning about my family through their words would be the best way possible. And also just having it to remember, and, I could pass that down. I could show that to my kids and, they can hear how crazy my dad was. And
it's good because it helps them understand you.
Exactly.
More.
Yeah.
Like having that, full picture.
So I talked with my dad before I started the service learning project because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And he was like, well, why don't you do the interview thing like you wanted to do with me? I was just like, God damn, like, that's a good.
He's right again.
Yeah, he's always right. We call him Brentadamus. Because he would make predictions 6 months in advance, saying, Biden's gonna do this, and the taxes are gonna be like that, and he wasn't too far off. But so started the service learning project with that. It was an obstacle trying to actually do my service learning project because we didn't have enough members for our group, yada yada yada. But thankfully, it still happened, and then I interviewed a couple of veterans, and then I interviewed you, and then you were telling me about how that senior wanted to do something similar, but didn't have the time to do it, and so I was just kind of putting two together, and I was just like, "That's me.
Yeah,
like, that's for me."
Yeah.
So
awesome. The one other thing I wanted to learn about is like how'd you get to FGCU? Like why'd you come in?
So that's actually a good.
You were, just for clarity, you were in Alabama when you graduated, correct?
No, I was in Florida.
Oh, you were.
So we moved down to Alabama when I was about 2 or 3, and then I was in Alabama until first grade. I had a repeat first grade going from Alabama to Florida because Alabama has 100 days of school and Florida has 180 for elementary schoolers. So I had to do first grade again, which I'm thankful for because in high school I was the first kid to get a car before everyone else, and I was literally the oldest out of my class. But I was in Land O'Lakes. I was at Sun Lake High School in Pasco County, and my dad, junior and senior year, he would not get off my ass about doing scholarships. He was like, do scholarships, right? Do these scholarships. Do 10 scholarships. Do 20 scholarships. I absolutely hated it, but I can't thank my stars enough that I did those scholarships because that's part of the reason why I'm here now. So I applied to a bunch of places. I applied to FIU, UCF, USF, FSU, FAU, FGCU. One of the first applications I put in was FGCU. And one of the first people to get back, the first college to actually get back to me was FGCU. So that was the first acceptance saying, hey, you got accepted. I got accepted into all the other schools I applied for. I also got invited to Harvard.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got
Nice.
I got a whole packet from Harvard. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I still have that packet. I'm holding on to that packet.
Yeah, frame it.
Yeah, I'm holding on to that
They
for the rest of my
wanted me.
life. Seriously. So, so looking at all the colleges, the big thing I really wanted to go to FIU because I really liked, I feel like I'm kind of like a city guy. I like the city, the urban environment, and so Miami, that's right where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so touring FIU, that was my school that I wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
But literally every single person I talked to was like, do not go to FIU. Because I guess it was cliquish, just the where the campus was located, it just wasn't a good part of town, yada, yada, yada. But I was like, all right, fine. So that got cut out. UCF was way too big. I didn't want to be too close to home at USF. But ultimately I chose FGCU because they were giving me the most money. Really. They offered me a presidential grant and then a couple other things coming in. And so, once I got in, with the scholarships that I got, with the bright futures that I got, I'm essentially getting paid to come do my degree here.
Yeah.
So I was just like, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. And so, my dad's been helping me a lot with the money and stuff. And, I've saved up a very good amount of money, more money than I've ever saved in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had a really good opportunity coming here. And as of now, 2 years in, I still see this is a really good opportunity. I feel like I did make the right choice.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
What are you majoring in?
So I'm majoring in, right now I'm pre-marketing. I haven't chose a concentration yet, but I do want to get into marketing. My business advisor was telling me that there's a digital media design concentration under marketing. So if there actually is, I haven't seen one on Gulfline or anything like that, but if there is, that would be the concentration I choose. And then I'm minoring in biology and entrepreneurship.
Okay. So what do you want to do after you graduate?
So I have kind of two paths that I kind of set out for myself. So the marketing and entrepreneurship minor would kind of contribute to more of the creative and artist side of myself. I love doing art. I started a mural team in high school, doing spray paints and stuff like that, sculpting, a bunch of stuff like that. But I want to create an organization that's dedicated to, helping artists facilitate art and, helping artists get connected to each other, network, collaborate, and almost pretty much like a creative collective, but more mainstream and inclusive, because I feel like a lot of the current models of, creative collectives and creative agencies like that, they're very high tier, kind of almost elite, kind of members only.
So the people who are just starting this can't get into there.
Yeah. So one of the big collectives is from ASAP Mob. Have you heard of? So AWGE, AWGE is that creative collective, and that collective is dedicated to ASAP Mob and ASAP Worldwide and that whole area.
Gotcha.
But not to anyone else. So as I've been journeying, taking my journey through art, and I wanted to start getting into fashion design and stuff like that, but I didn't have a lot of knowledge or experience in what to do and how to get started. And so it was very difficult for me to get started. And I wish I had that help and support of someone to help direct me, like, hey, I know these people in this area, that's local to you. Maybe you can get connected with them, yada, yada, yada. So I want to do that for other artists.
Okay.
So that's that side of things. But the other approach that I could take, which I'm more focused of right now, I'm seeing Compound. Compound is the name for the collective. The main focus for me right now is getting a biotechnology degree, a master's. So the biology minor that I'm taking right now should get me enough prerequisites needed to apply for a master's and get into a master's program for biotechnology. Wow. And then from there, I want to try and work in get a job in NASA or SpaceX in the space industry.
Okay.
You know, my ultimate dream is, I want to be an astronaut, honestly. Like,
that's awesome.
It sounds a little absurd because, I feel like, when everyone was 7 years old, everyone was like, I want to be an astronaut. And now I'm sitting here at 20 years old, I want to be an astronaut, Mm-hmm. It sounds a little bit childish, but, I
don't think it's childish at all. I think it's,
well, I don't know.
It's an awesome goal.
It seems like when you were younger, it seemed like, oh yeah, he could definitely be an astronaut. But
mm-hmm.
now that I'm 20 and you actually realize like what is actually needed, a lot of the people who said they wanted to be astronauts thinned out.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of how I see it, almost as childish. But I avoid saying I want to be an astronaut. I say I want to get a job in the space industry. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I am absolutely fascinated with space, black holes. I watch YouTube videos on quantum mechanics. I'm just a weirdo with stuff like that.
Watch Michio Kaku?
Yeah, I love Michio Kaku. And PBS Space Science. Uh-huh. Shout out PBS Space Science. I love you guys. But, also, probably my biggest inspiration for me wanting to go up in space was watching Interstellar, mm-hmm. That movie. Mm-hmm. And after seeing that, I was like, I gotta go up there. Yeah. My absolute dream is to, help colonize or help participate in colonizing either other planets or start stretching out our hands to other places mm-hmm. beyond Earth. Because, there's just so much talk about, climate change, the world's going to end in 100 years, all this, all that. And a lot of people, we do need to focus on the Earth. We need to focus on how we pollute mm-hmm. and, destroy the environment and stuff like that. And we need to change that for sure. But we are also past a certain threshold that we can't go back from. Mm-hmm. So I think it would be stupid not to look at other potential places that we can go, because not only that, there's a big argument of like, we're just going to do the same thing on the next planet. Personally,
well, we don't risk being extinct like the dinosaurs if that's the case, if we're multi-planetary species.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and I to the argument of, we're just gonna trash the next planet we go on. I don't think so, because
we have an opportunity to start new and look at our
exactly.
mistakes.
We've had hundreds of years of data that the past 30 years we're finding out, we messed up. Mm-hmm. We messed up bad. So we're finding that out just now, relatively, and so obviously we're not going to be like, whatever, throw that in the bin. Let's just go. We'll figure it out again. Mm-hmm. No, we're gonna apply the knowledge that we have to sustainability and to other things, and start new, like you said. Mm-hmm. And I'm just obsessed with wanting to be a part of that.
That's awesome. So one last question, because I know you said you have a final tonight at 8,
yep.
which is in a couple hours. So I heard this question today, and I wanted to ask you. If you were going to put pants on a dog, would you put it on 2 legs? Or would you put the pants on 2 legs? Or would you put it on 4?
I'd say 2.
You want to make the dog a person.
I feel like that makes the most sense. I mean, like, unless there was pants designed for a dog, then that makes sense. But it looks weird. Having more, you're having more than 50% of your body covered by jeans if you're wearing it long way. Like, that does not look right. It's like if I put on jeans, like if I was standing up and putting on jeans just on the front half of my body. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
When I heard it, I'm like, well, what's the purpose of pants? Is it to cover up the privates, or is it to cover the legs?
I mean, if you're thinking of covering up the privates, then it would be on 2 legs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but,
Yeah. Well,
very inquisitive.
yeah.
I was very,
I wanted to ask.
very
I heard it,
thought-provoking.
and I
Thank
was
you.
obsessed with that question today.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'll let you close out because I think you do your thing.
Yeah.
So.
You know, I once again want to thank you for, the semester and giving me this opportunity. And, I'm excited to see what happens in the fall. So.
Well, thank you, because what you're doing gives the veterans that voice and lets them share their story. And I think it really means a lot to them. So I wanted to thank you because what you're doing matters.
Definitely.
So.
All right.
All
It's a
right.
wrap.
Thank you.